The story begins with the male protagonist Touya fighting with his fiancées. Their targets are the two mithril giants. The body of the mithril giants is so hard that ordinary weapons cannot do any damage to it. Touya teleports the two mithril giants to a height of 10,000 meters through a portal. After they fall out of the air, Touya and his fiancées take turns attacking. With everyone's joint efforts, they manage to defeat the two mithril giants. After returning home, Touya is summoned by the god, who is accompanied by the goddess and hurries to meet him using the portal. The gods want to inquire about Touya's situation. Touya is very satisfied with his current life, and he is thankful that the gods have given him a second life. At the moment, he is not sure of his future goals, but he intends to earn money by completing tasks first. While talking about smartphones, the goddess notices that Touya does not use photos of his four fiancées as wallpaper. She thinks it's very nice to set the favored one's photo as wallpaper and smile while looking at the photo. But Touya thinks differently than she does, and he doesn't like smiling like that, causing the goddess to doubt his attitude. She remembers Touya laughing when he bought engagement rings for the four fiancées. Touya doesn't expect that the goddess and god have been spying on his life, and he finds them very boring. Meanwhile, Touya's fiancées are bathing together. They are also obsessed with Touya that they can't help but check out their engagement rings. Touya is very powerful, and Yumina believes that he will have more fiancées in the future. They can't interfere with Touya's decisions, and what they need to do now is try to strengthen themselves and support Touya. The other fiancés also agree with Yumina's idea. After taking a bath, one of the fiancés, Yae and Touya, arrive at the repair shop. Yae's sword broke during a battle with the mithril giants, and it will take a week to forge a new one. On the way back, Yae offers to hold hands with Touya, to which Touya agrees. Yae is very excited, and she hopes that she and Touya can always be so happy. Later, Touya and Yumina arrive at the palace together. Yumina is the eldest princess of the Belfast kingdom and has a very high status. The queen is happy that they are able to be engaged, but she worries that announcing their marriage will cause trouble for Touya. First, the nobles who choose Yumina as their daughter-in-law will see Touya as an enemy. Second, there will be many people who want to woo Touya. Third, if Touya fails to perform well, some diehards will think he is not worthy of being Yumina's husband. After returning from the palace, Touya thinks of the three problems raised by the queen. The first two are unavoidable, and what he can do is try to make real achievements and contribute to the country. So Touya goes to a hotel to investigate the situation. Knowing that the hotel didn't earn much money, Touya helps the owner transform the hotel and create a hot spring. After that, he gathers a group of people he knows to come to the hotel to experience it. His four fiancées are included. Yumina discovers that soaking in hot springs makes her skin smoother and wants Touya to admire her skin. The other fiancées are shy and do not admit that the purpose of their hot spring baths is to make Touya like them more. Yumina thinks they are not mature enough. If they really like Touya, they will want to have an intimate interaction with him. She wonders if they really like Touya. In order to convince Yumina of their feelings for Touya, they tell their stories. When Elze first met Touya, she developed a crush on him. He was very gentle in every move and respected her. After they spent a long time together, she gradually fell in love with Touya. Linse is Elze's twin sister. She is not good at communicating with people, and every time she interacts with a boy, she will annoy the other party. But Touya was patient and always listened to her carefully. He has a similar experience with them, and she admires Touya's character. He is circumspect and very determined. After they tell their stories, Elze asks Yumina to also tell why she likes Touya. Yumina is very straightforward, as she says she was sure that Touya would be her husband when she first met him. She can't say a specific reason, but she just likes him. At this time, they hear the manager of the Sky Garden, Francesca, saying that she's going to rub Touya's back. Right now, Francesca and Touya are bathing in different pools because the two pools are separated by a fence. She wants to climb directly over it and go to Touya. Unexpectedly, Touya set up a paralysis device on the fence to prevent someone from peeping at the women's bathhouse. After being paralyzed, Francesca is unable to move forward, just as Touya is enjoying the pleasure of bathing. Linse suddenly rushes into the men's bathhouse, informing Touya that she's found the ruins of Babylon Island. Linse is the leader of the fairy tribe and a master of using magic. She is interested in lost ancient technology and knowledge, and wants to open a portal to reach ancient ruins that she has not been to. While they use a monitoring device to find the location of the ruins, they find a giant crystal monster. Freyg is about to attack a group of desert victims. Touya immediately rushes to the desert with his harem members. The Elze sisters are responsible for bringing the victims to safety, because Yae is very powerful. Touya uses a portal to send her to duel with Frey's. Since Frey's body is very hard, Yae's attack does not hurt him. She fails in her attack and returns to Touya. While Touya is thinking about a battle plan, his friend End appears. He doesn't expect to see Touya here and greets him immediately. He then teleports to Frey's and smashes it directly with magic. Touya praises End's strength and asks him about the origin of Frey's. According to End, this world has a barrier that prevents the invasion of foreign objects. But one day, the barrier has a crack and Frey's emerge from it. End thinks that Frey's is just an underling who does what he is told, The purpose of the culprit is the same as his, which is to find the sleeping king, which Touya feels confused about. But En does not explain it and immediately says goodbye to him. After En's departure, Touya provides water to the victims. Among those victims are 3 adventurers. Except for them, everyone wears a collar, which is the symbol of the slaves and represents that they cannot disobey the orders of their masters. If the collar is forcibly removed, they will suffer severe pain and even death. Because their owner is dead, they have no way to remove the collar. The 3 adventurers are very sympathetic to them and intend to help them escape abroad and find a way to remove the collar. Touya sympathizes with them as well. Using the magic of instant fetching, he removes the collars. Even so, their identity as a slave cannot be changed, and they cannot return to their original countries. Yumina, as the first princess, invites them to join the kingdom of Belfast. The victims are so grateful to her that they kneel down to thank her. Touya sends the victims home and tells Francesca to settle them. Before heading to the ruins of Babylon Island, Linse asks Touya to explain his relationship with Ende. Touya replies that he met Ende on his way to buy an engagement ring. At that time, Ende wanted to pay with a strange coin, but the merchant refused after Touya paid his bill. He got the strange coin. Knowing that Ende wanted to find a job, he took him to the Adventurers Guild to convince them. Touya shows the coin. Francesca is a heritage of Babylon and knows much about ancient civilizations. She recognizes the coin as the Parthenos silver coin, a currency from 5,000 years ago. Linse thinks Ende is very suspicious. Not only does he carry ancient coins with him, but he can easily defeat crystal monsters. Elze hears Linse mention the crystal monster and takes the opportunity to ask Touya why he knows that the beast's name is Phrase. Touya tells them that he received a message from Regina. Regina created 9 floating islands in Babylon, and the Sky Garden is one of them. She lived 5,000 years ago and was a genius female scientist of ancient civilizations. Regina had a tool to foresee the future and watch them every day, until one day the Phrases destroyed Partheno. Where Regina was located, perhaps, as Ende said, Phrase appeared because of the cracks in the world barrier. Touya doesn't know much, and he hopes Francesca will tell him a more detailed story, such as whether humans were at war with Phrase 5,000 years ago. Francesca's answer surprises him greatly. Although it was a tough fight, humans and Phrases did not officially engage in a battle. Regina developed a weapon against Phrases, a single-piloted giant mobile robot called Frame Gear. Unexpectedly, by the time the weapon was made, Phrases had disappeared. Later, these weapons were stored in one of the ruins of Babylon, a vehicle hangar. If Touya can find it, he can get those weapons. So Touya again leads his harem members to search for the ruins. Using wind magic, Linse discovers one of the ruins beneath the desert. Touya is the first to enter the ruins and finds the teleportation array inside. Because magic is not available inside the ruins, Touya asks the summoned beast Kohaku to inform the others of his situation. Then he comes to another floating island of Babylon through the teleportation array. Unfortunately, this is not a vehicle hangar, but a workshop. Rosetta, the manager of the workshop, is very perverted. Although Touya is the compatible person, she still asks him to take a test which requires Touya to stand in place and guess the color of Rosetta's underclothes. By casting magic, Touya speaks out the correct answer. Because Rosetta is dressed too sexy, he's very shy. Rosetta recognizes Touya as the compatible person and announces him as the owner of the workshop. She records his DNA with a kiss and takes him on a tour of the workshop. The workshop is advanced in technology. Both Touya and Rosetta have access to create any tool on a tiny cube. If they have the original object, they can also replicate it directly. Touya uses his usual automatic pistol and a piece of mithril to create the mithril pistol. He loves the workshop very much. The only thing that disappoints him is that although the frame gear was made in the workshop, the finished products were all put into the vehicle hangar, and he can never get it after visiting the workshop. Touya uses a portal to bring his harem members here, including Francesca. Since Touya is now the owner of the Sky Garden and the workshop, he decides to merge them into one. Back in the Belfast Kingdom, Touya creates jobs for the desert victims. He makes many bicycles in his workshop and sells them to traders at high prices. After securing initial funding, he opens a cafe and hires the victims. As the owner of the cafe, Touya is popular with many people. On this day, Touya and Yumina come to the guild and accept the commission to fight the bloody crabs. While they are talking to Prem, she asks Touya to order an available book series, The Order of the Rose. After leaving the guild, Yumina tells him something. Recently, works about homoerotic relationships in the reading cafe have been very popular. The books that Prem mentions also talk about this theme. The author of the book is Reliel, the first princess of the Refrees Imperium. Because Yumina has a very good relationship with her, she knows that Reliel loves stories about homoerotic relationships and that she created the Order of the Rose under a pseudonym. Unable to understand Reliel's preferences, Touya decides to go on a fight against the bloody crabs first. He and Yumina work together and defeat the bloody crabs easily. While going to the guild to report the result, Touya tells Prim that he's going to order the books and asks her to pick popular works of the same theme. Prim is very excited. She immediately goes to communicate with the other reception ladies and makes a long list of books. Touya comes to the bookstore with a book list to stock up. Interestingly, he meets Reliel here. Reliel intends to buy a very popular novel about homoerotic relationships, but the book she wants has been bought by Touya. When she discovers that Touya has purchased The Order of the Rose, she decides to use a signed book to exchange the book she wants with him, as she reveals that she is the author of The Order of the Rose. Touya realizes that she is Reliel, whom Yumina mentioned, and calls out her name. Reliel is even more shocked than Touya. Her authorship has been well hidden, and she doesn't understand why Touya would know the truth. He explains that he is Yumina's fiancé and that he knows it from her. Because Touya buys a lot of novels, Reliel misunderstands that he likes boys, and she is very suspicious of his real relationship with Yumina. To convince Yumina that he likes girls, he arranges for her to meet Yumina. He also goes to the workshop and copies the book that Reliel wants. After coming into contact with Touya, Reliel has a lot of inspiration. She then writes a novel featuring Touya. In this novel, Touya does a lot of evil things to knights, princesses, and princes in order to seize a certain country. When Touya sees the novel, he feels very angry. Afterward, Touya continues stalking books. On this day, he comes to the Regulus Empire to buy books. There's a military coup in the empire, and it becomes very chaotic. Touya meets a wounded young man on the street and hurries to heal his wounds with magic. To stop the civil war, Touya rushes to the palace. He uses his smartphone to look for people in need and discovers the third princess, Lucia. He takes down the soldiers who attack Lucia and heals her wounds. Lucia rarely has contact with men, and she feels very nervous when communicating with Touya. At this time, a female knight of the Imperial Knights rushes over. Knowing that Touya has mastered teleportation magic, she asks him to teleport the royals to safety. Touya grants her request. Led by the female knight, they come to the king's bedchamber. The king was knocked unconscious by the rebels' leader. Bezer, and his condition is not well. Bezer is a general of the Regulus kingdom. A few days ago, he had a disagreement with the king. He wanted to attack the kingdom of Belfast, but the king refused. Bezer is a very ambitious man. He has been preparing for 20 years to occupy the kingdom of Belfast. He used criminals as sacrifices and made a contract with demons. All those who try to stop him are his enemies. Because Touya has been helping the Regulus royal family, Bezer is very upset with him. Not only does he summon demons, but he also uses artifacts to absorb the mana of Touya. In addition to this, he also has an artifact used for defense, and physical attacks will not have any effect on him, realizing that he will have a hard time defeating Bezer. Touya decides to leave first with Lucia and her father, as well as the female knight, although he is temporarily unable to defeat Bezer. He casts magic to cause some trouble for Bezer. Before leaving, Touya takes them home and heals them. He then informs his fiancés of the civil war in the Regulus kingdom. Considering that Bezer is about to attack the kingdom of Belfast, they have to find a way to deal with Bezer, so he reports about Bezer to the king of Belfast. The king devises a plan for repression and entrusts Touya with his help. Touya accepts the king's commission. When he returns home again, the king of the Regulus royal family has woken up and thanks him. Touya tells him not to worry, as they have already figured out a strategy against Bezer. Lucia asks Touya to find her brother before the war. Touya asks Lucia to imagine her brother's appearance in her mind. At the same time, he casts magic and reads her memory. But he never expects that Lucia's brother is the young man he saved. He uses his phone to find the location of Lucia's brother and finds that he is settled in a very safe place. After dawn, Touya infiltrates the kingdom of Regulus with his fiancés. Since magic is ineffective against Bezer and demons, he devises two very elaborate plans. In Plan 1, he casts magic on the mithril sword and uses the sword to slash at the demons. In Plan 2, he casts a teleportation magic to send Bezer to a storage space. There are several slimes in the storage space which continue to cause a terrible smell. After entering the space, Bezer falls unconscious because of it. With the help of Touya, the civil war in the kingdom of Regulus is resolved and the king regains control of the country. To thank Touya, the king decides to marry Lucia to him. Yumina is very generous. She has long seen through that Lucia likes Touya. Therefore, she asked the other fiancés in advance for their opinions and found that they all support Touya's marriage to Lucia. Lucia becomes Touya's fifth fiancé as she wishes, and she feels very happy. The kings of the kingdoms of Belfast and Regulus decide to give a portion of their respective lands to Touya in order to reward him. In other words, Touya will become the king of this territory. Touya accepts their kindness and names his kingdom Brunhild. Next, he's going to plan urbanization. When Touya and his fiancés are discussing the design of the castle, Rosetta introduces another function of the workshop to them. In addition to copying, the workshop also has a function of automatic transformation. As long as the materials are prepared, the transformation can be completed in 3 days, as any material has to be broken down and reconstructed. It doesn't matter if they use old materials. In order to save materials, Lucia proposes to use materials from abandoned castles. The idea is recognized by all. Through their joint efforts, the castle is quickly built. After the establishment of the kingdom of Brunhild, the king of the Refries Imperium applies to Touya for the establishment of diplomatic relations. He also suggests that Touya hosts a reception to entertain the kings of the West. Touya accepts his offer and he calls in the waiters of the cafe to help and also prepares various entertainment facilities. While he's thinking about security, a visitor offers him help. The visitor's name is Tsubaki and she's a female ninja who is a former member of the Takeda's Elite Four led by Kozaka. Kozaka, anticipating Takeda's imminent destruction, fired her early because Touya saved her and her people. Tsubaki takes her entire clan to join him. With the permission of Touya, they become the first residents of the kingdom of Brunhild. It is worth mentioning that Kozaka becomes the prime minister of Touya. With his outstanding ability, Touya, taking into account the need for some commercial activity of the residents, decides to recruit merchants. He not only creates the street with his workshop, but also builds an entrance post with Tsubaki's clan people. Lucia notices that Touya is very busy working and specially prepares a bento box for him. Touya is impressed by her and thinks she is a very cute girl. As the reception begins, the entertainment facilities prepared by Touya are popular among many kings. It's the first time that the kings of the countries have the opportunity to get together and each of them has a great time. The final performance of the reception is fireworks. While enjoying the fireworks, Lucia thanks Touya. Since meeting him, she has had a great time every day. Touya takes the opportunity to give the engagement ring to Lucia and hold her hand. After the reception, Touya and his harem members once again embark on a journey to find the ruins of Babylon. Fortunately, they find a relic in the kingdom of Elfrau, as last time Touya enters the ruins first, and then finds the alchemy lab whose administrator is named Flora since Touya already has a garden and workshop. Flora recognizes him as the compatible person, but she still asks Touya to complete a test involving touching her body. Touya doesn't expect Flora to be as perverted as Rosetta, and he feels very nervous after the test. Flora announces that Touya has become the owner of the alchemy lab and records his DNA with a kiss. Immediately afterwards, Flora takes Touya to visit the alchemy lab, which is a facility used to combine different substances and magic to produce new items, such as a potion that can treat wounds and so on. It also functions as a medical facility, and it's possible to regrow an arm or a leg. This will be very good news for the residents of Brunhild. After dealing with these things, Touya intends to concentrate on taking care of the people around him. He goes to Yae and the twins' homes in sequence to ask their families for the permission for their marriage. Ye's parents respect her opinion very much and does not object. When the twins' uncle learns that Touya is the king of Brunhild, his first reaction is to kneel to him. Touya is popular in the twins' homes. Later, when Touya learns that Thunderbears have appeared in the twins' hometown, he helps eliminate them while waiting for the Adventurers Guild to deal with the Thunderbears. Touya meets Ende. He is very curious about phrases and hopes that Ende will erase his confusion. Ende can't tell him the ins and outs of what happened, only telling part of the truth. The phrases don't belong to this world, and they came to this world to find the core of the king who led them. This core is hidden in the body of a random human and emits a unique faint sound. As the sound is covered by the heartbeat of the host, they can't hear the sound and can only make the heartbeat disappear by killing. That's why the army of phrases attacked humanity 5,000 years ago. But for some reason, the barrier of the world is repaired and phrases couldn't enter the human world again. At that time, Ende's task was to eliminate the remaining phrases. Unexpectedly, 5,000 years later, cracks occur again. Ende has been busy destroying phrases lately in order to stall for time and wait for the king's core to move to another world. That's all Ende is able to tell to Touya. Before Ende leaves, Touya asks him what his identity is. Ende replies that he is a traveler. Touya worries that the phrases will attack his kingdom. In order to confront Phrase, he consults Rosetta about frame gear. Rosetta tells Touya that the materials required to make the frame gear are huge and complex, and they can only make one per day. In addition, there are not many frame gears in the vehicle hangar, with only 4 or 6 of each type. Touya believes that the most important thing now is to find materials in the vehicle hangar. He summons the Flame Monarch and makes a contract with it. Touya names it Kagyoku and asks it to help gather intelligence. Kagyoku summons thousands of birds directly and sends them to find the ruins of Babylon. A few days later, Kagyoku reports to Touya that Bird has spotted a suspicious building on an uninhabited island. Based on its description of the building, Touya speculates that it is likely to be the ruins of Babylon. He is very excited and immediately comes to the uninhabited island with his harem members. They encounter several monsters on the island. His harem members cooperate with each other and easily defeat them. At this time, Paula, the summoned beast of Touya, discovers the suspicious building led by it. Touya comes to the building and confirms that this is the ruins of Babylon. He enters the ruins and meets the administrator, Monica. Monica has a very hot temper. She asks Touya to defeat her before she recognizes him to be a compatible person, but her combat power is weak and she cannot cause any damage to Touya. In the end, Monica has to announce that Touya is the owner of the Hangar Island. When Touya learns that this is the Hangar Island, he becomes very excited. At his request, Monica shows him a frame gear. Unfortunately, the frame gear here does not have fuel. If they want to get fuel, they have to go to another ruin, the Research Lab Island. Seeing Touya very sad, Monica suggests that he ask Flora. So Touya comes to the alchemy lab with the harem group. Flora says she can make fuel, but its quality can't compare with the fuel made at the research lab island. Touya doesn't care about the quality and just wants to get the frame gear activated now, after receiving Touya's assurance. Flora asks him for the spellstones required to make fuel. Touya, at Flora's request, uses his smartphone to find the spellstones. Lucky enough, there is a big one in Brunhild. When Touya finds it, he immediately gives it to Flora. While Flora is making fuel, Touya comes to the hangar island to check on the frame gear. Coincidentally, Rosetta is in the company of Monica to check the condition of the hangar island. After meeting Touya, Rosetta invites him to the pilot's seat. When he gets on the seat, he is increasingly looking forward to the day when the fuel is made to get Touya used to frame gear in advance. Monica takes out the 2 virtual reality machines she has made. She and Touya sit on it and conducts actual combat training. Because it takes a month to make fuel, Touya replicates many virtual reality machines in the workshop for the harem members and the residents of the city to experience. In addition, the workshop also produces frame gears every day. It only takes a few months for every resident to own a frame gear. Before the fuel is finished, Sushi suddenly arrives in the kingdom of Brunhild. Sushi is Yumina's cousin, and she is also very close to Touya. But when Sushi offers to marry him, Touya is taken aback by her. At this time, Lane, the housekeeper of Sushi's home, arrives to explain the situation. Zabun, the first prince of the kingdom of Linne, falls in love with Sushi at first sight at a banquet and proposes to her. Zabun is 30 years old, and his promiscuous Lame is also opposed to the marriage. Sushi confesses to Touya in order to convince him to marry her. She loves Touya and just wants to marry him. Touya feels very excited, but this is a matter between the 3 countries, and he must first consult with his fiancées. Unexpectedly, the fiancés are all very supportive of their marriage and are actively helping to find a solution. After the discussion, Touya decides to have a conversation with Sushi's father, Duke Ortland. He arrives at Sushi's house and tells the Duke that he will marry Sushi. The Duke thinks it is a good way to reject Zabun. When Zabun's brother Cloud comes to visit, the Duke refuses their marriage proposal on the grounds that Sushi and Touya have an engagement. Unexpectedly, Cloud adores Touya, knowing that he is good at teleporting magic. Cloud begs him to save his mother. It turns out that Cloud's mother is imprisoned by Prime Minister Wardak for nearly a decade. The kingdom of Linnea is currently in Wardak's control. Neither Cloud nor his father can resist him. Wardak's and Zabun's mothers are cousins and are very close. Wardak intends to announce the succession of Zabun. While the marriage is announced, the Duke is very dissatisfied with Wardak's actions. He believes that an emergency meeting should be convened immediately to abolish Zabun and help Cloud take the throne. As the emergency meeting begins, the kings of the Western Kingdoms express their support for Cloud, but they do not want to get involved in this political struggle and leave the task of helping Cloud to Touya. So Touya comes to the kingdom with Cloud, accompanied by Yae and Elze, in order not to attract the attention of others. They all use invisibility magic except for Cloud, who then heads to report the result of the marriage proposal to Zabun and is followed by them. Zabun is not much different from rumors. He has a hot temper and is accompanied by a female slave. Knowing that Sushi and Touya are engaged, Zabun intends to send people to spread rumors that Touya is lecherous, and use these rumors to get Sushi to break the marriage contract with him. During this time, he can tell that Cloud is very opposed to his decision and beats him up. After that, Touya's group goes to Cloud's residence and casts magic to heal Cloud. Touya cares about the slave girl by Zabun's side and uses the portal to rescue her. Even the collar around her neck is removed by him. Unexpectedly, Zabun and Wardak are both very violent. After discovering that the slave girl is missing, they try to directly execute her by crushing the collar. Touya's group follows them using invisibility magic and overhears Wardak's intention to use Cloud to declare war on the kingdom of Palafu. To help Cloud, Touya makes a series of plans. The first operation is to rescue Cloud's mother. After dark, Touya's group sneaks into the vicinity of where Cloud's mother is imprisoned. Touya uses paralyzing magic to immobilize the guarding soldiers. They then easily rescue Cloud's mother and leave through the portal. The second operation is to gather evidence of Wardak's crimes. After rescuing Cloud's mother, Touya uses invisibility magic and sneaks into Wardak's office alone in an attempt to record the evidence. But he never expects that he will find out about the adultery between Wardak and Zabun's mother. They are discussing how to assassinate the king, get rid of all royal members, and make Zabun the new king, and the reason why they are planning this is that Zabun's biological father is not the king, but Wardak. Touya records what they say with his phone. Having obtained the key evidence, Touya intends to hand it over to the king. The king is very angry and immediately announces that he will pass the throne to Cloud when questioned by Wardak. The king asks Touya to play the video. He orders to remove Wardak from his post and sentences Zabun to death. Upon his accession to the throne, Cloud sells the Zabu family to slave traders to let them experience the life of a slave. Things in the kingdom of Linne come to an end, and Sushi once again confesses to Touya. Unable to turn her down, Touya agrees to make her his sixth fiancée, but he still adheres to his principles, insisting that he will not marry them until he is 18. Next, let's have a look at Touya's private life. He decides to deepen his relationship with his 5 fiancées. Because he hasn't given Sushi the engagement ring, that they go call Sushi and the 6 of them go to the Refreeze Imperium for a date. During then, a poster of a theatrical performance catches their attention, just as they are about to go to the show. A group of gangsters stop them and demand money. Due to their weak combat power, Touya's fiancés easily defeat them. Touya has a very enjoyable day with his fiancés. In the evening, Sushi suddenly appears in front of them. She complains that they go out on a date without telling her. To compensate her, Touya allows her to date him alone. Sushi decides to date in the kingdom of Brunhild. On the day of the date, they wander around the kingdom and attract the attention of many residents. Sushi thinks Touya is a good king and his people all seem very happy. Towards the end of the date, Flora tells Touya that the fuel is made, and he immediately fills the frame gear with the fuel for a test drive with his fiancés. Frame gear is easier to manipulate than expected. Even if they don't have mana, they can handle it very well. After the test drive, Touya comes to the workshop, and Rosette uses fragments of phrases collected by Touya to craft swords and crystal bullets. She also reports to Touya about the problems she encountered when making frame gear. That is, a material called orichalcum is running out, and it needs to be replenished as soon as possible. While searching for the orichalcum golem, Touya passes by a kingdom called Lestia. He discovers that a group of low-level phrases are attacking the town and immediately helps the local knights take them down. Because many of the inhabitants are injured, Touya heals them with magic. The leader of the knights is Hildegard, the first princess of Lestia. Hildegard is very grateful to Touya for helping them. She once heard stories of Touya helping countries solve problems and admires him. Unexpectedly, Touya is not only smart but also very skilled in swordsmanship. He can take down phrases with just one blow. Touya thinks Hildegard is also very good at swordsmanship, but she doesn't have a weapon that can deal with phrases. With her permission, Touya takes the phrase fragments from the scene and gives her several crystal swords. After leaving the kingdom of Lestia, Touya finds an orichalcum golem and takes it down. On the way back, he meets a wounded girl. Although he casts magic to heal her, she falls into a coma. Touya takes her to the alchemy lab for treatment. Unfortunately, the girl wakes up and loses her previous memories. As she doesn't have a name, Touya gives her a temporary name, Sakura. When she is recovered, Touya arranges a room for her in the castle and has Kagyoku as her guard. On this day, Touya hears Sakura singing in the garden, and her singing makes Touya heart race, remembering that he hasn't played the piano for a long time. Touya decides to accompany her on the piano. When Toya's fiancés hear, they love their music. After the performance, Touya meets Prim in the Adventurers Guild. Prim wants Touya to accept the mission of fighting the Catoblepas, which is very difficult to deal with. It spits out poisonous smoke from its mouth that will make plants wither, and its eyes are very terrifying. Whoever has eye contact with it will be turned into a stone. There are currently 3 teams who have been turned into stones. A total of 13 adventurers. If Touya completes this commission, he will get a high reward which attracts Touya, and he accepts the mission. Before the mission, Touya prepares weapons for his fiancés and adds recovery magic to their rings. Even they meet the sight of the Catoblepas, they don't need to be worried. After the battle begins, Touya uses his sword to cut down the Catoblepas. Since he has eye contact with the Catoblepas, his feet are petrified. He soon casts recovery magic. But his shoes are damaged. Touya comes to the conclusion that recovery magic can only restore the body. At the same time, Lucia accidentally meets the sight of the Catoblepas. To everyone's surprise, its eyes still take effect even after its death, and Lucia's body is petrified. Her petrified area is relatively large. After she casts recovery magic, her skirt is torn, and Lucia is extremely shy and hurriedly asks Touya to turn around. After that, Touya finds another Catoblepas. To avoid being petrified, he blocks its sight with magic. In the end, he successfully completes the mission. A few days later, Touya invites the king of the allied kingdoms to experience the virtual reality machines and lends them to the kings. Phrases are very powerful. It is not enough to use only the power of Brunhild to defeat them, and he wants people all over the world to learn to drive the frame gear. While Touya is busy preparing for the fight against Phrases, the goddess suddenly arrives in the kingdom of Brunhild. She falsely claims to be Touya's sister and has a conversation with him alone. She is interested in Touya's private life and wants to see him up close. At this time, a maid reports to Touya that Lestia's messenger has arrived in Brunhild an hour ago, and that they are currently visiting the Order. Touya arrives at the Order's training ground and meets Hildegard and her grandfather, who come for the frame gear. Touya takes them to a clearing on the outskirts to demonstrate the combat power of frame gear. As they are worried that Touya will use frame gear to invade other countries, Touya tells them the fact that phrases once destroyed the ancient civilization. In order not to let the tragedy be repeated, he activates the frame gear. He never wants to invade other countries. If the allied kingdoms want to fight against beasts or help with disaster relief, he can lend the frame gear to them. Hildegard's grandfather is interested in frame gear. He wants to establish diplomatic relations with Brunhild, but he cannot make this decision himself and has to go back and consult with his son. After visiting frame gear, Hildegard wants to compete with Brunhild's strongest swordsman. Touya believes that the strongest swordsman is Yae and arranges a match for them. Although the winner hasn't been decided in this competition, Hildegard admires Yae very much. To her surprise, it turns out not to be a knight but one of Touya's fiancées. Hildegard develops a crush on Touya when she first met him. Knowing that Touya already has 6 fiancées, she feels very devastated. The goddess and other fiancées are watching the battle off stage. The goddess sees through Hildegard's thoughts and reveals her affection for Touya on the spot. Hildegard is shy and hurriedly apologizes to Yae. Unexpectedly, Yae not only does not blame her, but also invites her to be Touya's 7th fiancé. The other fiancés are also very supportive of this. Hildegard is very touched and she is determined to marry Touya. The only person who objects this is Hildegard's grandfather. According to their national tradition, if Hildegard wants to get married, she must show her determination. So they have another competition. Hildegard's grandfather masters powerful skills, causing Hildegard to have a hard time resisting. To help her, Touya deliberately uses his phone to show her grandfather a picture of a beautiful girl. Hildegard's grandfather is lecherous. He is attracted by the photo and shows flaws. Hildegard takes the opportunity to defeat her grandfather. Afterward, Touya discovers 2 ruins of Babylon, the Rampart and Tower Islands at the same time. 347 years ago, the 2 islands made contact by chance, so now the Rampart and the Tower are at the same place. Touya meets the administrator of the Rampart. Her name is Leora and she is very gentle. Knowing that Touya already possesses several ruins, she does not test Touya and directly declares him the owner of the Rampart. She then takes Touya to meet Noel, the tower's administrator, who is sleeping leaning against the tree. Leora asks Touya to bring some food and wakes her up with the aroma of food. Noel has a very simple request: as long as Touya is able to provide food and accommodation, she will admit that he is the compatible person. Touya agrees to Noel's conditions. After the negotiations, Noel and Leora kiss Touya in turn, recording his DNA, since Noel is very lazy. Leora helps introduce the tower. The tower is the center of Babylon, able to draw magic particles from the air inside, amplify it, and transform it into magical energy. The Rampart is the central pillar of Babylon's defense system, blocking physical and magical attacks. Touya believes that the tower can help in the creation of frame gear and is also looking forward to the defensive performance of the Rampart. While Touya is leading his harem members to tour the ruins, Kohaku delivers a letter which is sent by the king of Belfast. He informs Touya that Yumina's mother is about to give birth. When Touya receives the news, he immediately comes to Belfast with his harem members. The king is very excited. He brings his newborn baby to meet Touya and asks him to give the baby a name after thinking about it. Touya names him Yamato. Yamato's birth is very good news for Belfast and Brunhild. After the visit, Touya's fiancés come to the women's bath together. They talk a lot about newborns and can't help but start thinking about their babies with Touya. Several administrators of the ruins reveal to Touya what his harem members talked about. They also tell Touya that they foresee his future using the clairvoyance gem. He will have 9 wives in the future, each of whom will give birth to a child at the end of the story. Brunhild hosts a banquet to celebrate the birth of Prince Yamato. Although Touya has no children now, he feels very happy to have many family members and people. While he kisses his fiancée, Francesca brings out the clairvoyance gem to foresee his future. According to it, Touya's other 2 wives will be Lean and Sakura. They will form a very happy family. That brings the end of this season. And that's the end of the video. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.